All right, so we ready,
What,
and
what we're going to talk about?
we're gonna talk about everything. So we're gonna kind of we're recording now. So like, I mean, well, I don't know if you can hear. Like I was telling mom, that just the whole idea is that my thing is that I think it's power and kind of knowing where you came from, with your parents and grandparents and people around you, what they did and some of the things that they've done. As we say when we did these family reunions, people, you start getting curious about why you are how you are and where you got some of the things that you're from. So I just thought it would be cool while all of the grandparents and people that are going to be in Ava's lives are around, that they can have an opportunity to tell, basically their story. Like Oprah always say, everybody got a story. So really what we'll do is we'll start off with what's cool for me is just talking about your parents. If you can talk about, your mom and dad, and if you knew your grandparents, maybe where they were from, what type of work they did, what type of people they were, and then we'll move into your childhood, high school, and all that stuff. But we
Hmm.
start with stating your name, where you was born at, how old you are, and then about your parents.
Hmm. Okay, well, I guess I'm ready to roll then.
We already rolling. So your name, and we
My,
talk.
na- my name is Curtis Daniel Jr., and I was born in
Dad, are you moving?
Wisner.
Are you moving the phone or something? Cause it's static in yours. Or where you at? Are you sitting down or?
I'll change and get on the other one. This is a cordless phone.
Okay.
Let me get on the other. Yeah. Yeah, I was. Let me just get. All right, there. Hello?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I was born in Wisner, Louisiana in 1947, and I'm 67 years of age right now. And my mother name was Bessie Freeman. My father's name, Curtis Daniel, Sr. And
How long were your mom and so were your mom and dad? How many brothers and sisters you have? And what are
I
their what are their
have
and name their names?
I have with my mom and my dad. There's 8 of us all together. Starting with my oldest sister named Ernestine, and my other older sister Ollie Mae, and then I come in. I'm the third, and my brother William, and another brother Isaiah. Then comes another sister Irene, my baby sister. Then my brother Charles, and my baby brother Liddell. That's 8 of us. And my mom, she also had one son before my mother and father got married. His name was Willie B. And my father, he also had 2 kids before him and my mom got married. The oldest one was named Leon, and then he had a daughter named Roxy.
So
And then later on,
were they married before, or they just had kids before?
oh, my dad had been married before, but I don't think my mom had been married before.
Okay.
And my dad also had another son after him and my mom divorced, and he remarried. He had another son that's named Billy.
Now, how long was your mom and dad married, or how old were you when they got divorced or separated?
Well, I'm not exactly sure when they got married, but I know it had to be around the early 40s because Ernestine was born in 1944. And they were married when she were born. So I would say they got early and got married somewhere between 1940 and 44, somewhere. It may have been 42 or 44, somewhere along in there. And
How long they stay married?
to, well, they were together until about 1965 to 66, something along around 66 or something like that. Because they were together until I got out of high school. I got out of high school in 1965, and that's when they separated for a while. That May, my mother left, and I stayed on there. Well, everybody had left. Ernestine and Oliver had already left, and wasn't nobody there but all of the rest of us. So my mom, she left and went to stay with her mom. And I stayed on there with Daddy, so I was the only one there for Daddy that summer when I got out of school that May. So I stayed on there with him until that September. And then I worked, we grew up on a farm. As far as I know, that's what all my grandparents, that's all they ever did was farm work and stuff like that. My grandparents on my dad's side.
What was your grandparents' name? You remember?
Yeah, on my dad's side, my grandfather was named Lonnie Daniel, and my grandmother was named Emma. Her maiden name was Emma Burr, but after she married my grandfather, she became Daniel. And on my mother's side, my mother's father was named Isaiah, and my mother's mother was named Winnie.
Now, was your mom and dad both born in Louisiana or no?
They were born in Mississippi, both of them. My mother was born somewhere around near Brookhaven, Mississippi, over there, a small place called Lucian. And my dad was also not too far from there, a place called Silver Creek, Mississippi. My mother, she was born in 1915, and she died in 2010. My father was born in 1917, and he passed away in 2002.
Now, what happened with your dad? I mean, what type of work and stuff did your dad do?
Well, from the time that I remember up until 1965, he was a farm worker, sharecropper. In Louisiana. And after that, he also did some construction work. And after he stopped farming and stuff and moved to the city, like he moved into Monroe, to Monroe and stuff, and he did construction work and also did some yard work and stuff like that later on.
Yeah, and what about your mom? What type of work did she do?
She always was a housewife. That's all she ever did. But she also worked off in the fields and stuff when we were growing up, like picking cotton and chopping cotton and stuff like that. What we all did on the farm was some of everything, working around the house, in the yard, and different things, in the fields and stuff like that.
So whose fields? Was it y'all farm or y'all worked for somebody?
Well, we lived on a white man's farm, and we what they call sharecroppers. Well, we would work, plant cotton and stuff like that and work it, and then at the end of the year and stuff like that, they sell up like that. They get so much of it, and you're supposed to get so much, split the profit and stuff like that. But the way things were back in the 40s and 50s and in the early 60s, it wasn't always fair the way they treated people. Like they would have you working and stuff, and then when you do all that work and stuff, then they'll tell you at the end of the year, because they let you live on their land free and all that stuff, they'd say you didn't do that good, and they didn't keep their own books and stuff, so they just managed things and told them what they wanted, and they just accepted, they just did it, got away with it like that. That's the way things were.
So what was your dad like?
The people that had their own land and stuff, it was different for them. But if you didn't own Daddy didn't own their own land, so they just had to live on the white man land and kind of go along with the program, whatever they wanted them to do.
Yeah. So what type of personality or what type of person was your dad?
He was a hard-working guy, a guy that he just about could do just about anything that I know. He wasn't too much of a mechanic, auto mechanic and stuff like that. But as far as working in the fields and working, and he worked at sawmills, he worked at the fish market, during the time when he wasn't working during the winter months and the months or whatever. He knew how to just about do just about anything as far as I can. He knew how to cook and do everything. Daddy did. He could do it all. I didn't know nothing that he couldn't hardly do, really.
Yeah. So looking at your mom and dad, what do you think you took from your dad? What characteristics, or what did you kind of get from him
Well,
personally?
one thing that he always told us is, he taught us to, work for what you wanted and, do a good job with whatever you do and try to do the best that you can. That's what I learned from him. And, if you want something, not to try to, steal nothing or take nothing from nobody. You got to get out there and work for it. That's what I learned from him, And I learned on my own that, that the more I work, if I want something, I just have to, I didn't feel that I was making a lot of money on the jobs that I worked on, so I always, worked to try to do some extra work or do overtime or something like that in order to kind of make things a little bit better for me and my family like that. So I spent a lot of times working Saturdays and Sundays and stuff all the way up until I retired like that. I wasn't making the most money, but decent salary and stuff like that. So that's the way I did it. And
Now,
he taught me that.
Now, what about your mom? What type of personality and what type of person was she?
Well, she was a nice person, caring person, and easygoing. She always, she looked out after us. She cooked for us and made sure we had clean clothes every day and stuff, and all the things a good mother you would expect out of a good mother. She cared about us and did, the best that she could do.
So from
her conditions and stuff.
So from your mom's personality, what do you think you got from her?
Being easy and caring and considerate, and thinking of others, not only for myself, but I also think of other people and how they might feel too. Like that. I think I got that from my mother, and trying to do the right thing, just be good. Treat people like you would want them to treat me. That's how I feel. What I got from my mother.
So it was 8 of you guys. Where were you guys living? I mean, y'all was in a house, or what did y'all?
We had a house. It really was like a 3-bedroom house. Well, our first house that I can remember, we like when I was, from the time that I was born, I think we had moved about 4 different times. Like, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 different times. So from 1947 to 1954, we had moved 1, 2, 3, about 4 times. So just about every year, Daddy would move from one person's place to another one because he was unhappy with how things happen. They work you and then you don't end up with no money at the end of the year and stuff. So he moved on another guy's place, and then he stayed there. And that's after me and Ollie Mae were born. It might have been 6 times that they moved from the time that I was born to the time that I left home. It might have been 6 times because the last time, after our house burned down in 1956, then we moved 2 more times to 65. And before that, it was at least 4 times before then.
Okay. So now, what was you doing when you were young? You play sports, do music, you draw, or what was you doing when you was young?
I didn't play any sports. Like in the school where I was going, they had basketball like that, but we lived quite a ways from the school. We might have been about 3 or 4 miles from the school, and we had to work in the fields. People that worked that lived on farms and stuff, their parents and stuff, they wanted, when you wasn't in school, they needed you out in the fields working and stuff. So I never could go have time to go practice. You could be on a team, you got to be able to practice when they had practice and stuff like that. We didn't have football. The only thing they had was basketball. And then my last couple of years there, they got a little baseball team and started playing baseball, and I wanted to play baseball, but I wasn't able to play baseball because I never could get to the practice.
So this was in the elementary? You was working in the field in elementary?
I started working in the field before I started school. Mama used to take us out in the field when we were babies, because they didn't have no babysitters and stuff like that. And they would carry you out and have you down on the end of the road, somebody, kind of watching you out there. There ain't nobody at home to watch you. So long as I can remember, even before I was tall enough to, like we had mules, to plow and work in the field. And I remember Daddy had me planting corn with a one-row planter and one mule, and I had the piles. I had to hold the lines and the plow too, and try to plant the corn up on the row. And I couldn't even. I wasn't even tall enough to. If we hit a rooter like in some new ground where they dug it up, and then sometimes you run into a root or something like that, and then hang you up, and then you got to snatch it back and get around the root and everything. And I wasn't even able to do it. Sometimes the planter would fall over on me. Same thing when I started driving. I wasn't even. I couldn't. My foot couldn't even reach the brake and but I used to have to scoot up. I started driving, and before I could even reach. As long as I could remember, I was plowing in the field and stuff probably when I was 6 or 7 years old, really.
You did all that all the way through high school?
Every year, yeah. From the test, that's what I'm telling you, my whole life. That's what I did. Everybody, my younger brothers like Ray and Liddell and Irene, now they didn't have to go through all of that, but William and Isaiah and everybody on up, and me and Ollie Mae and Ernestine, all of us, we worked in the fields every day. From the time that, before we started school, we would be in the field. And then when we worked in the fields and stuff, we would start working in the field like, let's see, when school lets out, and then in September, you may start school, and then you don't really get to go to school until maybe December sometime. They keep you out of school. They would keep us out of school all that time, because we out there working and picking cotton and stuff. School would start in the last of August, but we really might not. Only time we would get to go to school if it rained or something, and they know it's too wet for us to work in the field. They send us to school, but then you go to school. What you gonna do? You don't even got no assignment. You don't know what's going on, so you just go to school and just sit up there. And they would, the teachers would just pass us on, and then when we do start the school, we might start school in late December or something like that, and then when it come maybe May or something like that, they may take you out of school and start planting cotton and start planting the horn cotton in, and you don't get a chance to be there at the last month of school. That's how life was with us.
So y'all, when y'all was going to school, y'all would work in the field first, then go to class, or you just saying they would just keep you home?
They just keep you home all day for the first 3 months. Just about September, October, and November. Just those 3 months you out unless it rained. If it rained, then they tell you you can go to school that day if they think it's going to be raining all day or something like that. Then you won't be able to go out there and do no work. You can go to school then. If it rained 2 days in a row, you might get 2 days. But when you do go them days, what do you know? You ain't been studying. You ain't had no homework or nothing. You just go to school and be at school and behind. Wow. That's how it was when they started at school. When I was in the 8th grade or something like that, then they finally started having typing classes and stuff like that. I never did get to go in and learn about typing or nothing like that because I wasn't there when they first started. Same thing goes with music. When they see us get music in our school, I wasn't able to, be there to learn nothing about it. and you go up there in the middle of something and you ain't got the first beginning of it. The same thing goes with math and algebra. I was pretty good on arithmetic and stuff like that, just regular arithmetic and stuff, and read. I learned how to read and do all of that and write and stuff like that. But when it come down to doing math, algebra, and stuff like that, I never could do those because I never did was there to learn the beginning.
So now so all of that, so you graduated from high school though, right?
Yeah, I graduated. They graduated me on to high school. That's the way they used to do us down there. They, if you go to school and you just there and stuff, and you're trying and stuff, and they would just pass you on. Get passed us on. They know that's the way it was in those days. Mm-hmm. That was before 65 and stuff like that. It's completely different now, And then it was just all blacks at the school, and the whites had their own school and stuff like that at those times when I was in school.
So, what was you doing for fun?
What I did for fun?
Yeah, what y'all used to do, just play in the field?
We would play basketball and stuff like that, maybe on the weekend or something like that. At our house, we had a basketball court in the backyard and stuff like that. That's all we had to do, was something like that.
So did you have a girlfriend in high school?
In the last few years, yeah. My last maybe couple of years of high school. Maybe from the 9th, 10th, 11th. I mean, from maybe the 10th, 11th, and 12th.
So then after high school, what you voluntarily went to service?
High school, I got out of high school in May of 1965, and then I stayed there with my dad. That was when my mom left and moved over with her mother, because her and my dad separated. She was waiting until I got out of high school, and then she left. That same week I got out of high school, May the 25th, 1965. And my mom left that same week and went and stayed with her mom. And then that whole summer, wasn't nobody there at home but me and Daddy, because my mom took Lydia and Irene and Ray, and they all went and stayed with my grandmother. William, he was just, I had left already, too. He just had left and was gone somewhere. I don't know what he was. But anyway, I stayed on there with Daddy and helped him. I was driving the tractor. He had got a tractor then, but I was driving the tractor for him and helped him to farm his farm for that year, because he had already planted his farm and stuff before Mom and them left. So I helped him up until September, and when September came, I told him I was going to leave and go and get me a job. I left and went to Monroe. And I started working at the college, in Northeast Louisiana State College up there, and I was working in the cafeteria. I worked in the cafeteria for 9 months. And then I got drafted and went into the military in 1966, in July of 1966. And I spent 2 years in the military.
So when they drafted you, did you think about not going, or you just was going?
Well, I didn't mind going. I really did. I didn't mind going. It was sort of like an adventure, like to me, and a chance to get away and see some things that I probably would never have seen. So I didn't mind.
So how'd you pick the Army? Or I mean, why not?
I didn't pick it. They drafted me. I had went when I was in the 11th grade. I had went and taken a test for the Air Force, but I didn't pass the test to make it in the Air Force. But at that time, during the Vietnam era thing, they was just they was forcing people to go in, and so they just called me, and the only choice they gave me was if I wanted to be in the infantry or in artillery, and I told them artillery, and when I went in, I took artillery training, but after I went in and took the artillery training, then they put me in infantry, and I did my 2 years in there.
Oh, you just did 2 years? I thought you had to do 4.
No, if they drafted you back then, you only had to do 2 years. So I spent a year and a half in the States, in the United States. I took training at Fort Polk, Louisiana, and I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for my ART training. Then I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. That's down in Columbus, Georgia, right there by you. and I took my jump school down there, and then they sent me to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. That's where my home base was. I spent most of my time up there in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And then I was there, and I went to Detroit to the riots when they had the riots back in '67 and stuff like that. They sent us up there. And then from there, in the last part of '67, they sent me to Vietnam, and I had 6 months left. Everybody that was had 6 months or more in the service left. At that time, we had to go to Vietnam, so I spent my last 6 months in Vietnam. And I was blessed, to be. They had put me in infantry, but I was in communications, and so. I was a switchboard operator over there in Vietnam, so I wasn't one of the ones that was out there. And I was in headquarters brigade company. I was blessed to be in a good company where I wasn't in a line company. So the line companies had to all protect us in the middle. We were set up in the middle, and they kind of, had to keep the headquarters safe. So I was, that was it. I got a chance to go up out in the boonies about one time and spend a week up in the boonies. That was right after the 173rd that all just about got wiped out up there in Dak To up there, and they sent us up there afterward, but it was all over when we went up there. But that's the closest I got. We had some rounds and stuff that come in on us when we was in our regular base at Food Fin, but so, nothing really hit us. But a few of them come around. I had to jump in the bunkers a couple of times. But other than that, that was it. I wasn't just out there in the boonies and stuff like that.
So then, had you met Mom yet when you was in the service or no? Had you met Mom yet or no? Or you met her?
No, I didn't meet her until I got out. I got out in '68. That's when I met her. I got out in July of '68. And I think I met her around August or something like that, and so sometime in August of '68.
So what made you go back to Louisiana? That's just where you was going to go, or after you got out of the service?
That's where I was living when that was my home when I went in the service. I was living in Monroe. So when I got out and went back to Monroe.
Okay.
At first, I went back to my old job, what I had at the college when I went back there that July, and I started there. But I used to work in the cafeteria, and I ran a dishwashing machine and stuff like that in the cafeteria like that. And when I went back, then they wanted to put me on the pots and pans. I didn't want to do them pots and pans there, and so me and Isaiah decided that we would go up in Minden. We left and went up to Minden. That's about 60 miles north of Monroe. And we put in an application, and we got hired at the Army ammunition plant out there. At that time, it was booming because the war was still going on over in Vietnam, and they was making a lot of ammunition and stuff, for the Army and stuff. But when Richard Nixon got in there and became president and stuff, then they started closing a lot of bases and cutting back on the military and stuff, and they pulled the troops out of Vietnam and stuff a little bit later on. So that's when we got laid. I worked at the ammunition plant up there in Minden,
So where was you living? You was living on your own, or you was staying with your mom or your dad?
When I was staying in Monroe, I stayed with Ernie Steen when I first went to Monroe. The whole while when I worked out at the college for 9 months, and then when I went in the military, when I came back out the service, I might have stayed with her a little bit then, but not too long, because I didn't stay. I didn't stay there that long after I went to Minden. After I started to work up there in Minden, I moved up there in Minden and stayed there.
Now
I never had my own place in Monroe.
Okay.
I was living with Ernie Steen for a while. That was before she had all those kids. Like it wasn't nobody but Linda and Sandra when I first went there and stayed with her in '66. No, 65. I went up there with her in 65 and 66, So I stayed with her and Rhea. And
now, how did y'all? So then you there, and then I guess you met Mom. And how did y'all decide? I think she kind of said it, but what made y'all pick? I guess out of all the places you could have went to, what was attractive about California? Why'd y'all go to California?
Well, it was really wasn't hardly no jobs around there at the time. After I had got laid off from up there in Midland, and it was just hard to find work. You know, it was a lot of wasn't too many places hiring, and the ones that was working, you know, they wasn't wanting to pay nothing. So, yeah, we just thought about Leon. He was out here in California and stuff like that, and I called and talked to him and stuff, and we just decided that we would try to come out here and try something different. So we got in my car and we just packed up in at around July 11, July the 10th or something like that, 1971, and me and him just got on the road and came on out here.
So you were what? But I thought you was married. Didn't you meet Mom first before? Didn't y'all move out there together or no?
Well, I came out here. We had already lived in Memphis for about from 69 to 71, me and your mom.
Okay.
And then after I got laid off that March of 71, we went back to Monroe and kind of stayed around Monroe for a little while, staying with different people and stuff for a little while. And then that July, so from March to July, that's when I decided to come out here.
So she stayed in.
I had started to work in Monroe, but I didn't like that job. That I worked for about a week at a furniture manufacturing company, making furniture and stuff like that. But I didn't like that job, and it wasn't paying that much. So me and I just quit. I worked 1 week. That was right around the 4th of July, I think, and I quit. And me and him, we just got in the car and came on out here then. And then after we got out here, about a week or so later, then your mom came out here.
Okay. Where'd y'all stay?
I stayed with Leon for about a week.
Okay.
And then when your mom came out here, we stayed with Aunt Pearl for about maybe 3 weeks or something like that. And then we got in the apartment, our own apartment. Leon had some apartments out here at that time. And that's where we were staying at when you were born, in Leon's apartments over there on 108 in Stanford in L.A.
Well, he owned the apartments?
Yeah, he owned them at the time.
Oh, okay.
But we were paying him rent, you know.
Okay.
Some little like a one-bedroom apartment.
And then, so what was your first job in California, or what was you doing?
Well, I worked at... when I first got here, I worked along with Leon and them doing some construction work up until November. And in November, then I got my job working with Wise, where we worked. I worked with the telephone company and stuff like that, where we were servicing telephone booths and stuff like that. And I did that up from 1971 until 1985, August of 1985, I worked there. That's where I became a supervisor. After I had been there working for about 6 months, I became supervisor, and I worked there for almost 13 years until they went out of business. And then in '85, then I was out of work for about six months, and I went to school to Harbor Occupational Center. I took up trade for welding, went to taking welding classes and stuff like that for a while. But then when I finished up down there, and I got to working at Martin Marietta, an aluminum factory company, where they made metal and stuff for aircrafts and stuff like that over there in Torrance. I was over there for about maybe almost 3 years, from 86 through 86 to 88. Yeah, I was over there to 88. And then that's when I started working with the school district. And with the school district, I got hired as a window washer, and we worked building school maintenance, cleaning the classrooms and stuff like that for them. And then I also became a supervisor on that for my last 7 years. I was a senior window washer supervisor in crews and stuff like that. So quite a bit of years of supervision. I guess I did mostly in maintenance work. Most of my life I did maintenance work.
So now you're retired. You got all your kids. What do you enjoy doing? in retirement? What do you like to do?
Well, I mostly just takes it easy. I watch a few TV shows and stuff like that, and do my gardening and stuff. Every once in a while, we go out to the casino or something like that, or take a little vacation trip or something like that. That's about That's about it.
And
I used to like fishing and stuff like that, but it's just so hard to do fishing around here. The lakes and stuff so dry and stuff, and then the fees and stuff that you have to pay to just go in and stuff like that. So I loved fishing when I was in Louisiana. I used to go home on vacation and stuff like that. I used to always go fishing and stuff. Now it's different down there. You can just go fishing down there.
so when you guys, I mean, I don't know. I guess Eric always think it's different. I just, you guys got in the house and all of us went to the same schools. We played at the same parks, kind of had the same neighbors and all that stuff. Was that like a conscious decision that you guys just wanted to get somewhere and raise your family and kind of stay in one spot?
Yeah,
Or
well, it was a nice neighborhood and stuff like that, and the nice neighbors and everything around and everything, and the schools and everything was all right, great and everything. I've never been the type that just like to just keep moving around unless I just had to. So I ain't never really had, my jobs was always kind of steady, like 13 years on one and 21 on the other one. So, in the same area, I think about it sometime, but I'm all right where I'm at right now.
now, when you going back, did you ever? You did your 2 years in the service. Did you think about staying, or how come you didn't stay any longer, or what was that about?
Well, at the time, I probably would have had to go back to Vietnam, and then the only reason I got on out was my mom. She was worried about me so much when I was over in Vietnam and stuff like that. But then I did think about going back in. Well, after I had got out and found out that it wasn't hardly no jobs out here, during the early 70s and stuff like that, it really was hard to find work and stuff. And at one time, I did try to get back in, but they said I had stayed out a little bit too long. If I'd have came back a little bit early, at that time when I had first came out here, I did go, and I thought about getting back in, but they said I had been out too long.
So what if you go in the service and get out? You can't just start back over. If you was in and you get out, that's it.
Well, that's what they told me at that time, but they done changed a lot of stuff now, but I had got drafted, see. But I could have re-enlisted and stayed on in there while I was in there, but after being out so long, and then go back, they at that time, they had got so they don't really need all what the people that they needed back then. So that's why they.
So on y'all, was there any? I guess was you always naming? Was my name always gonna be Curtis? Did you and Mom have to debate about that, or it wasn't no big deal?
Wasn't no big deal. Your name?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't no big. No, your mom named you.
What you want?
Yeah.
Okay. And then so now, like, I always tell Erica, she's fascinated because I guess I just went around naive. I never paid attention to all the cousins, brothers, and all this stuff or whatever. So you and Mom, y'all made a conscious decision that, like, I literally, I think I probably didn't realize it till I was in college. And somebody just out of the blue was like, you got an older brother. How come he's not named after your dad? And I never really thought about him having a different dad. So what was y'all philosophy on that? Like, I know Marty's been around since, if she said she had him in 68 and y'all got married. But how did y'all, handle that? Or what was your philosophy or thoughts like that? Because I never heard him referred to as a step brother or half brother or anything like that.
Yeah, well, he was 6 months old. I raised him since he was 6 months old. And I always treated him just like I did y'all and everything. He was just like y'all. Matter of fact, he might have had it a little bit easier than y'all did. That's the way I thought it was, because I ain't. It was just one of just before y'all. I ain't do no different. I didn't treat him no different as far as anything. It was about the same. I treated all y'all about the same.
Yeah.
I tried to.
Yeah. So then like I asked Mom, were you surprised when you found out we were having a kid? Did you ever think I was going to have a kid or?
Yeah, it surprised me. You had said that you didn't want none and you wasn't going to have none. You always said nope, nope, nope. So it was a surprise to me. Really, 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 really surprised me.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts about Ava, her personality, and from when you met her, what do you think about her? What type of person you think she's gonna be, or?
She seemed to be a very smart little girl, and I think she's gonna be grow up to be a smart little girl, and she can be whatever she want to be. I believe that. And I think y'all doing a good job steering her in the right direction and everything, and I believe she'll do great in life.
So it's one thing I always remember. I don't know how old I was, but I remember. I don't know if you remember, but I remember one time I asked you. I was like, "Man, Daddy, what happened to all your friends?" I said, "You didn't play sports or you didn't do nothing," and then you was like, "Well, we had y'all." So now that I got her, I understand. I never understood that, and Mom always say it was a little different because y'all didn't have anybody, so y'all made sacrifices by working different shifts and making sure somebody was there with y'all kids. Y'all didn't have grandparents around and stuff like that. But
yeah, we never did have around, even though we've always been away from them. And none of them ever did anything for us or helped us in any kind of way. This love and stuff like that. But as far as doing something, they never did anything for us or nothing like that. On either side, my side or her side.
And I guess on I don't know what I just heard in the background, but in closing, I guess if you weren't here or if Ava's hearing this when she's 30 or something like that, what type of person or what would you want her to know about you? I always just wanted to know that I love her, and I'm a caring type of person, and I try to treat people like I want them to treat me, and just that I ain't never tried to be no better than nobody else, and I don't think nobody no better than I am. That's what I would want her to know about me, and that's about it. All right, and I guess that's it. Any what was I about to say? With all the grandkids that you have, did you ever envision yourself having that many grandkids, or how is it being a grandparent and now you guys are like a great grandparent? Is it what's the big difference between, I guess just being a parent and a grandparent? Does it, after you have a couple, does it all feel the same?
Feeling like being the grandparents is more harder than being the parents. Feeling like it's too many birthdays and too many Christmases. Feeling like always something popping up.
That's probably because y'all retired. If y'all was working, y'all probably wouldn't maybe lean on y'all that much.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But that's all. But it's all good though. We're blessed, to be able to try to help them out a little bit, and if they're doing okay, I try to help them. It's all okay as long as they, I see them doing and trying and trying to do the right thing. I don't mind.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. I think that's it. Real quick though, because I won't. I know your brothers and sisters. I'm not gonna be able to get them out here,
Hmm.
and those would be, I guess, what her great aunts and uncles. So if you could just talk a little bit about your siblings, what type of name them and what type of people they are, just so she'll kind of have some type of perspective on your brothers and sisters, what type of people they are, and kind of what they do. Just real quick, if you run through them.
Okay, well, I start from my oldest sister. Like just my immediate sisters and brothers.
Uh huh.
With Ernestine, she's my oldest sister, and she was a nurse. She worked in the hospital as a nurse, and she had 8 kids. And my next sister, which is Ollie Taylor, she she was a school teacher. She retired as a school teacher. She did about 30-some years as a school teacher in Monroe, Louisiana. And she had 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys. And my next brother after me, William, he's been around. He's worked different fields and different jobs. And he's worked in maintenance and worked as a tree trimmer and different things, and he's been married twice. He has 6 kids by his second wife. He's been married 3 times. And then we go to my next brother, Isaiah. He's in a convalescent home with Alzheimer's, and he's 65 years old. But he's been married 2 times, and he has 3 kids, 1 girl and 2 boys. And go to my sister, my baby sister Irene. She worked at the hospital. I'm not exactly sure what she did in the hospital, but she's worked her whole career in the hospital. Maybe, I don't know if she's a dietitian or something like that, but in the hospital and stuff like that. And she has 3 kids also, 1 girl and 2 boys. And then I go to my brother Ray, Charles Ray. He's been married 2 times. I can't exactly tell you how many kids exactly he has, but he's got close to about 8 kids, somewhere around that, 7 or 8 kids, maybe 9. I'm not sure. And thereby, he has had 3 by his first wife and 2 by his second wife, and then he had some more kids and stuff, but he's got quite a few. Then my baby brother, Liddell, I don't think he's never been married. And he has 2 kids. Let's see, he's got LaGale and then Chanel, the only 2 kids that he has. And Liddell, my baby brother, he's been doing time for the past 12 years, and I don't know, he's probably got about 13 more years to do, and there's a possibility that he may be able to get out there. And that's about it.
All right, cool. All right, appreciate the time. We'll send y'all a
glad
copy.
To be able to do it.
Ain't that you ain't leaving nothing out, right? You told your story. We straight.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Let's hope April have a nice, long, good future.
All right.
healthy.
Amen.
All right.
All right.
God bless. God bless.
All right.
All right. Bye.